Hello everyone, I'm Deepak, founder of pmcurve.com and author of the book Tech Simplified for PMs and Entrepreneurs, which I'm sure many of you have already read. So in this video, we are going to discuss 3 activities to gain excellent technical acumen. Now, when I say technical acumen, I don't mean that you'll become better at coding by doing these 3 activities, but if you're a PM and founder like me, you'll become better at technical conversations, you'll become better at managing and building technical products, and you'll also gain a lot of trust of engineers when you do these 3 activities. So let's move forward with that. Now, the disclaimer that I want to put before we get into these 3 activities is you need to be comfortable with tech when it comes to doing these 3 activities, right? So you need to understand the basics of tech, because if you don't understand the basics of tech, you won't be able to actually do these activities, or even if you do these, it will be slightly frustrating, right? So if you have already worked with technical teams for multiple years, you would already have some proficiency, even if you have not read this book, Tech Simplified. But if you're a beginner PM, if you're not very comfortable with tech, I would suggest you go and read the book and then come back and do these things that I'm recommending, right? But in any ways, like, just watch through the video to understand like what I'm planning to tell you when it comes to building technical acumen. So the 3 activities that I'm putting in this video, I have personally done all 3 of them at various points in my career. And that gives me faith that whatever I'm talking about has actually been effective, right? This is not based on some research that I've done somewhere. This is not based on something that I've heard from somebody else. This is actually like, these are the things that I've done myself at various points of my career, and they have actually helped me immensely, right? So let's move on to the first one. Right. The first one is reading research papers while managing technical products. Now we know that engineers already do that. Engineers already read research papers while they manage technical products, such as conversational AI or like even deep tech products in hardware, etc., etc. Right. But what I'm recommending is PM should also read research papers when they're managing technical products. So, for example, in one of the jobs that I was working, we were building recommendation system, and in that job, I actually went ahead and read like some of these papers that I've shared, right? So for example, this is one very simple paper, like it's not a very dense one, it's just 5 pages. And it's more of an industry report than a paper. But when you go through this, what you realize is you start understanding the terms such as cluster models, similarity, cosine similarity. You start understanding item to item collaborative filtering. You start understanding the scalability when it comes to these ML models, right? So machine learning and all, like if you're building products like recommendation search, reading these papers actually help a lot. And if you're looking at like where else can it help beyond the technical understanding, the first thing that it does is like it improves your familiarity with terms that are specific to domains. So in this case, when you talk to engineers or when you talk to data scientists, they actually feel you are very credible, right? And building credibility goes a long way, because if your engineers and your data scientists feel that they can trust you, I think you can create immense impact while building the products. So that's the first thing, but that's not all. The second is it makes it easy to create analogies and spot good ideas. So when you actually read, for example, if we go back to this, like how Amazon built recommendations, you can actually see some analogies between Amazon and the product you're building. You can also see some differences between Amazon and the product you're building. So it makes it easy for you to create analogies and spot good ideas in your context, in your path of building products, right? So that's the second thing. You will come up with good ideas and you'll be able to spot good analogies when you are writing the product requirement documents. The third is it makes you creative when it comes to solutions. So usually like creativity is something which is very hard to understand for a lot of people because we feel that it's our gut. Like creativity is something which is very intuitive, which is something which is in our gut. But again, if you read like behavioral scientists such as Daniel Kahneman and all, what they say is your gut is actually storing millions of years of data that came through evolution. And so if you want to become creative, you need to build the domain knowledge. You need to build certain expertise, and then you can come up with solutions which are not very obvious ones, because you have already gone through what people have thought about, what people have built when you go through these research papers. Now, the only caveat I'll put is most of the research papers or industry reports that are out in the public is something that these companies have done a few years back, right? Or maybe 10 years back. That's why they feel comfortable to write about it. But their current recommendation engines or search engines or current data products are not something that are working on top of these papers, right? They're much more evolved and they are a trade secret, right? But nonetheless, like this will give you definitely a heads up. This will give you definitely a leg up as compared to like you not going through these. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I recommend is if you are building platform products, which are another breed of technical products, but much more complex, right? So let me take a while to explain the platform products, right? So platform product is something like Facebook gaming. So you look at Facebook games, and what you see is the reason we call Facebook games a platform is because any developer can come and build games on top of that platform, right? Another example of a platform is Play Store, App Store, right? Where you can go and you can build a product, build an app, and you can launch on Play Store or App Store. So when you are building these platforms, the level of complexity is very high because you have to think about all the use cases, all the things that developers are going to need. Microsoft is a terrific example of like the platforms that it has built over the years. And so are like everybody in big tech has done that. If you look at Facebook has built platform for developers. Google has built like Play Store and Android and all things. Apple has built like App Store. Then there is like Microsoft, right? So all the big companies are built on top of the platforms. And as a PM, if you want to become much more evolved, I would suggest like you pick and build some platform products in your career. But anyway, that's a topic for a separate day. But today, like what I want to talk about is, now that you understand what platform products is, if you are building platform, the level of complexity of platform is going to be very high. And if you want to manage that complexity, the best way to start is to go through the technical documentation that Facebook has written for developers, right? So if I'm building games platform, and I actually built games platform for Flipkart, but if I'm building games platform, what you see is like these are instant games, gaming services, business suite insights, cloud games, legacy web games, assets, and all that. Like you can get into like how Facebook has created an instant games platform. What is the playbook? What are the compatible engines? What is the game performance? What are the quality guidelines? And blah, blah, right? So you go through this and you will very quickly build a thesis on what sort of platform you want to build. Similarly, like if you want to create a separate sort of platform, which say like you're building a platform for businesses, small and medium businesses, which lets them do something. Can you spot similar things that either big tech has done or like somebody else has done? Can you go through their documentation? Because the good thing about platforms is these companies have to put out the documentation for developers to read and build on top of it, or for businesses to read and build on top of it, right? So definitely go through and read documentation of similar platforms while managing platform products, right? And like I said, like the way it helps is platform products are very complex, and reading these documents will help you understand the complexity and come up with better solutions. The last thing is, and this is more suited to startups, and because startups have resource constraints, startups also want to move fast, and nobody shies away from telling like some of their good practices in startups. So if you're a big company going and talking to a big company, they would be slightly wary of telling you things. But if you're a startup asking for a help from an expert in an industry in a big company, they're more than happy to help because they see that you are creating some value for the ecosystem. You're trying to solve a problem that nobody has solved, so they're happy to help, right? So in this cases, like, which is why I say it's more suited for startups. Nonetheless, like if you don't compete directly with another company and they have some experts who have built like similar systems that you're building, you should talk to those experts, right? So talk to engineering experts who have built similar systems, pull in your engineering manager, pull in your tech lead, and talk to these people so that you can understand that what are you signing up for? What are the potential problems that can happen in the future? Like the way it helps, the term for that is premortems. So premortems is basically when you are starting a project, you have to imagine that the project is finished and it actually failed, which is a very, I would say, sad state of affairs, but you're just imagining, so it's not that sad. And you have to think about what could go wrong. If it was a failure, what are the possible points at which this failed? And then finally addressing the possible points of failure. So this is like from, again, behavioral science literature. This is something which I first stumbled upon in this book, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Terrific book, by the way. Go and read it if you haven't. But premortems will help you figure out what could be the points of failure. And you can do a premortem with somebody who is an expert, who has built similar systems very, very quickly, as compared to you just sitting in the room and thinking about it. Again, I said like this is, the third is slightly, I would say you have to be cautious because you don't want to, because of a couple of reasons. The first is like you don't want to go out and tell what you are building a lot of times. So if that is the case, don't do it. The second is you don't want to go to somebody and ask them for info, especially if you're competing with them, right? So which is why this is a small subset. Nonetheless, like for building plain vanilla system, for example, like I was building data warehousing solution in one of the companies that I worked in. And I knew that people have built data warehouse solutions, and it's not a competitive advantage. It's just that we have to anticipate the complexity and the cost and everything. And people will be happy to help, especially people who are not direct competitors. So in that case, it was very, very easy to go out and sort of seek help, do premortems, and actually define and ship the product in the fastest possible way. Again, so that would be all. Like the three things that we discussed is start reading research papers. You'll feel good. Believe me when I say that. Read documentation of similar platforms while managing platform products. And the third is like if you can find an expert who has already built that system, and you can make sure that you're not sort of putting out a word around something that your company doesn't want to, or you're not directly competing with them. Like go and talk to them, do premortems so that you can ensure the success of the product. So yeah, that would be all. I think this is the first video that I'm putting out. So you can see I'm slightly nervous, but I'm sure like I will get better at it. And the videos will also keep getting better. So subscribe this channel for weekly videos on product tech and AI. Thanks a lot for watching it till the end. Again, subscribe, hit subscribe. Thank you.